I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate my guest being here. Matthew's here. Okay, we're going to archive the show. Matthew, as I said, is the president of Heinemann Publishing. We're going to have a nice talk about what he sees as a literary landscape these days. Okay, and I want you please go over to ace-ed.org. That's where everything we do happens to be located, our magazine, Equity and Access, our websites on SEL and teacher retention, as well as the one on equity. All the podcasts are archived over there as well. And we really work hard about equity and access and social emotional learning and teacher retention and all that. A lot of work on professional development, et cetera, which I know is something Matthew's going to be talking about today. So go over, check it out. We're on your side if you're in education. That's over at ace-ed.org, ace-ed.org. And I can't tell you how happy I am that Matthew called in, and here he is, ladies and gentlemen, returning guest. Welcome back, Matthew. It's Matthew Mugo Fields, everybody. You were running a little bit late. I was hoping you were going to call in, and I'm so glad you did. Thank you.
Oh,
it's Larry here, by the way. It's Larry here. Hi, Matthew. Larry's here.
Hey, Larry. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. It's good to be back with you.
It's good to have you here, and I got to tell you, I was so thrilled. I mean this sincerely when I heard the news that you were named president of Heinemann, because Heinemann's a kind of a favorite company of mine. All right, I always liked them. We used to do a lot of shows together. Okay, and you were on, and you were a terrific guest. Then boom, you became president of a company I really like, and I'm just thrilled about that. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's a real honor. Heinemann is also a favorite company of mine. I remember, when I was in graduate school, using books that were published by Heinemann. Some of my professors were Heinemann authors, so it's a real thrill.
They might have actually been on the show. I used to do a lot of work with the Heinemann authors. It was always fun, and I just love it. Are they still in Portsmouth in New Hampshire? Are they still headquartered there?
Yes, we sure are. We're headquartered in downtown Portsmouth, New Hampshire,
yeah.
And if you've never been, it's a really beautiful place, particularly this time of year.
I live very close to there. We're down there a lot. I used to live in Exeter. That's where my kids were raised. Okay, and now we live in Maine, so I'm very used to it. And I got to tell you, if people haven't been to Portsmouth, that is one great place to vacation to. Okay, it is just
really.
It's one of the. How often are you living there in Portsmouth, or are you still in New York? What's going on?
No, so I'm primarily in Boston these days, and Portsmouth is only about an hour north from Boston. So I commute into the office every week.
That's cool. That's very good. Where are you in Boston? Yeah. Not to give your address, but what part of the city are you?
Exactly. Well, I'm in the Seaport area in Boston, which is also a really cool area.
My friend, you know how to live from the seaport in Boston, which is really cool, up to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which, by the way, also is a seaport, is really, really cool. Okay, that's a good commute, my friend.
Larry, I don't know if you remember this, but I'm an island boy. I'm originally from Barbados, so I gotta be near some water some kind of way. the seaport to the Pasquanaqua River. Okay, there you go, my friend. Exactly. This is great. Okay, and I did not remember that. Thank you, Matthew, for reminding me of that. I forgot. Okay, well, you got a job to do now. Now you're the president of this terrific company. Okay, and I know you have some wonderful thoughts, okay? I think of you as a thought leader, okay? You are a wonderful thought leader, all about teaching and comprehension, vocabulary, etc. I'm just going to let you just go with it. Share some of Heinemann. You're new to Heinemann as the president. What do you bring to that? How do you want to shift things around with listening to your folks and all that? Where do you see it all going? Yeah, so
big question.
Folks who it is a big question that's got multiple parts. Let me try and
take your time.
Clear up, because I've gotten feedback that my LinkedIn profile is a little confusing, because on the one hand it still has me in my old role at HMH and also now as president of Heinemann. And the way to kind of square that circle is many people don't know, but Heinemann has long been a division of the HMH, and really what this represents is a unification of some sort of the Supplemental Intervention Solutions group at HMH that I've had the pleasure of leading for the last 5 years. And now within that expanded group sits Heinemann, but distinct and on its own. I guess that's where I would first start in how I've approached the role. Heinemann has been
for the last 40 years, a really important institution in the landscape of particularly K-12 education. This is the professional learning company that educators, particularly educators who are focused on sort of professionalizing the profession, if you will. I know that's a bit of an overused phrase. Have focused and have gotten their resources, have been able to tap into luminaries and authors and their best thinking and the best research that's informed by sort of on-the-ground reality to help teachers navigate all the challenges that they face. And so in that regard, I am a huge fan of the legacy that we've inherited. And I see my role as really helping to bring forward in new and different ways much of what we've always done. We've always had a focus at Heinemann on student agency, think of that as sort of student-centered learning, and teacher professionalism. And those things will remain constant. What we're now, with our sort of new vision and strategy that we recently announced, we're really focused on actualizing that in new ways. And basically, big three planks of our vision for the future is about strengthening and diversifying our curriculum portfolio. Although we have our roots in professional learning, Heinemann has grown to become an important provider of classroom materials and curriculum. And so we see that as continuing to not only build on our strength in literacy curriculum, but also begin broadening our portfolio even more. We recently introduced math at Heinemann, and that's a real priority for us to continue growing our math portfolio. So that's kind of plank one, is strengthening our curriculum portfolio. Plank two is what we refer to as sort of modernized professional learning. So we think of that as not only making sure that the professional learning that we offer to support teachers implementing our curriculum solutions is modernized, but also the way that our professional book publishing is making sure that that's also modernized. So think of it as, we're meeting teachers where they are and how they like to learn. We did some research and saw that, even for Heinemann teachers who regularly access our materials for their professional learning, many of them actually prefer to learn through the web. And so we're embracing that more and more.
That's very interesting. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And I can come back and talk about each of these, but just trying to get at your question. And then the sort of the third plank of our strategy, which will not be surprising to anyone, at least other than you, given your knowledge of my background in education technology, the third plank of our strategy is really accelerate our digital transformation. Look, we are, in this 21st century, every company is in some ways a software company. The only real question is, are you a good one or are you a bad one? And we aspire to be a really, really good one, a great one, in fact. And so we're doing a bunch of things, both in terms of the solutions that we create and also the way we operate the business. Even what some people would think of as the boring back office stuff. Well, that boring back office stuff, that also can benefit from a digital transformation.
We got so many things to talk about based on that, okay? And I love what you just said, that every company in education, we'll just narrow it there, is a tech company. And I couldn't agree with you more, okay? We tend to think, I hate that term, ed tech, because I always make my joke, it's like saying ed chalk or ed blackboard. You don't need the ed, okay? This is what we do. This is a technology-based profession now. Okay, it's that simple. It doesn't take away from the art of teaching. Okay, it enhances it. Okay, but it's so based on technology, and it's not ed tech, it's just tech. Okay, this is what we do. It's just education. Okay, that's what we do. Heinemann is a tech company. I got to talk to you. They just said a couple of things, and I thought this was interesting. Okay, you talked about diversifying the products, etc., but there's another side to diversity. Okay, and that is in the products itself. Okay, and when you look at the diverse world that we teach in now, and the need to get more teachers of color in there, et cetera, more guys in there, it's not that I have anything against female educators. Please don't misunderstand that, but we need a balance. Okay,
All right. And when you look at it like through your eyes, the diversity within K-12, how do you see Heinemann fitting in with that? And I think it's important. I think it's very important that you're running the thing. Okay, you bring those great eyes to you, that mindset. Mr. Barbados, go ahead.
Well, I think, Larry, I know you, and obviously your commitment to equity is second to none. So I understand the spirit of the question. In some ways, I think it's a lot like what you just said about EdTech and technology, right? You said this is just the nature of the work. That's the medium in that case, right, that we're using technology, of course. Well, diversity is essential to the work that we do. If we know anything about the students that we serve in this sort of modern classroom, they are incredibly diverse. And so not only the workforce that seeks to serve those students and those families need to be more reflective of the communities, but also in our case, where it really comes home for us a lot is also the materials and our curricular solutions and then the authors that we recruit and promote and their thought leadership. So I can't say enough. It is just the work. It's baked in. It has to be seamless. In other words, to not have a thoughtful approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion is to not know how to do this work well. That's just how it is. And so now we've got work to do on this front in terms of our transformation as well. Heinemann's long been committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we're taking that up a whole other notch now. We believe that it needs to be seamlessly integrated into our work. One of the first things we've done to advance that is train every employee at Heinemann on what we call sort of our curricular equity, inclusion, and diversity guidelines. We did that, earlier this year. That means that folks who are in editorial roles and other roles now have sort of a muscle that they are training in ways that some of them may not have trained it before in terms of our general approach to content development and making sure that the content is appropriately representative of the community. Some of the places you can see this is we just released the new edition of Lucy Cossins' Units of Study for K2. Incredibly powerfully diverse curriculum that is speaking to and really representing many, many different communities in really powerful ways that allow more and more students and more families to see themselves in a program that is rigorous and scientifically based as well.
That was a beautiful answer, my friend. That was just literally a perfect answer. And I mean, really, okay, this is something, and it concerns me because as the student body becomes diverse, more and more diverse, we search so hard to find great teachers of color, both male and female. Okay, that's difficult. Okay, there's not a big pipeline. Okay, and the teacher pipeline in general is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So we need help. Teachers need help. Okay, to be culturally relevant and culturally engaging to a very diverse student body. Okay, across the whole country. Okay, and the fact that you guys are doing that and recognizing it and doing it. Okay. To me, it's just so darn important. Teachers need help, and you're a professional development company, and when you apply that to the curriculum materials and the classroom libraries that you guys put together, okay, it just is so helpful to educators these days. And I have to talk about something else, Matthew. I'm going to do kind of a segue into teacher retention. Okay. Yeah. As you know, about 50% of teachers are always thinking of leaving the profession, and there's not a pipeline anymore. Okay. It has dwindled seriously. All right. Yeah. And it's extremely important to me. The key to this, to keep good teachers teaching, is solid professional development and professional development materials. And you even said they're going more to the web now than they are perhaps the books, however you want to phrase that. Okay. But that's just the way things change over the course of time. But if we don't do the right professional development and keep teachers aware of the various changes that they face every day, okay, we're going to keep losing them because they get more and more frustrated with their job. And they don't want to be frustrated with their job. They want every kid to learn. Go ahead. Speak, my friend.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, some would argue, and I might agree with them, this is the single biggest issue we face, particularly coming out of the pandemic, is this issue of teacher turnover, teacher shortage, whatever you want to call it. The root cause of it is teacher morale. It's as you said, people exiting the profession entirely. And it's a big challenge, and it's multidimensional, and it requires a bunch of different approaches to help substantively address it. Of course, making sure teachers are more appropriately paid and rewarded for the very hard work that they do. We as a society give a lot of lip service to teachers as heroes and heroes, but we don't sometimes pay them like that. And that's important, and that's got to be said. But beyond that, there is also this notion of teaching, having teachers be treated and regarded and managed as highly skilled professionals. And that's something that many teachers tell us. I mean, we do HMH a survey every year of, across the nation, our educator confidence report. And teacher morale is at an all-time low, and we've been doing this for about 10 years, this survey. And what teachers are saying is exactly this kind of thing, that they aren't being treated the way that they would like to, that the profession, the job has gotten harder. In fact, that kind of brings us back to a lot of what we're focused on at Heinemann, both online and offline solutions that just lighten the load for teachers. We know that on our best day as a company and as an organization, that what we're doing is supporting these teachers who are really the stars of the show. And so for us, that we really obsess over this down to it's going to sound funny, Larry, but down to the clicks that we ask teachers to do. Like how much are we asking teachers to do to, launch and start an assignment? What are we asking them to do to make sure that they're assessing students well? Well, there's ways in which technology, software can actually help lighten some of that burden on teachers, and we're really focused on marrying that with really solid, thoughtful, research-based, evidence-based, curricular solutions.
Thank you for saying all that. Okay, I appreciate it. It's where we are, and we have to look at it. We have to look at it with different eyes. We have to look at it with different thoughts. We have to look at it with a post-pandemic view. Okay, and by the way, I have to say we knew all this stuff was going on beforehand. Okay, and it took an emergency like the pandemic to give us a good kick in the tushy. Okay, and say, well, we really got to do something. We all got caught short. Okay, we did the best we could, but we all got caught short. Okay, it's an old joke. We won't get fooled again. We gotta get this together. And on that same kind of note, I want to talk to you about there's an achievement gap, Matthew, between, if I may, kids and kids of color. Okay, which sounds like a stupid way to say it, but there's a learning gap with Black and Hispanic kids, which is absolutely absurd. Okay, these kids are not stupid. All right, Hispanic kids are going to be about 30% of the population. At 30% of the population, there's a learning gap. Think about that. Black kids for how many years now? It's absurd. Okay, it's absurd. And the point is, think of what we have lost. Think of the brain power we have lost. Okay, over the course of how many years? Okay, and we know this. We have to talk about that. Talk about the work of Heinemann and all this. I mean, it's absurd.
It is. It's
nuts.
It's an immoral status quo, as you mentioned, and it was, as you and I talked about before, it was bad before the pandemic, and the pandemic just showed us that it widened even more, right? If you look at the recent NAEP scores as a proof point of that, students of color, low-income students were subjected to remote learning, which I think we've kind of have all nationally anyway concluded was not an optimal, I'm being kind, optimal scenario, right?
To say the least,
Yeah, and that contributed to worsening of the big challenge. Look, we always, we know the challenge. It's been with us for a very long time. The thing I'll say is, systemic challenges require systematic solutions and comprehensive solutions. So again, we come back to this notion of let's make sure that we are, addressing issues that are largely policy issues around funding and how we point resources at particular communities vis-a-vis other communities, et cetera. How do we ensure that the schools and students who have particular needs broadly that oftentimes those needs that exist outside of school play out in the performance of students in school? How do we help schools address those issues?
Yes.
And provide additional resources. There's some amazing work happening around the country, and I know you've seen it, you've heard the stories as well, where schools have really embraced their role to help, bolster communities more broadly than just providing sort of reading and writing instruction, right? And then when it comes to sort of academic instruction, making sure that we are appropriately getting students what they need and helping teachers deliver. Because one of the challenges teachers face, right, is I've got 20, 30 kids in my class. Many of them are varying, stages along a particular achievement spectrum relative to a set of standards. How do I tailor instruction and individualize instruction for those students? How do I respond to their needs appropriately? Again, that's where we're focused most at Heinemann, is on how do we help teachers do that with having the right toolkit, if you will, to respond to those needs, but also how do we help them identify those needs via assessment, et cetera, more easily and be able to tailor instruction. So it's a mouthful. It's a lot. Some of these are words that are easy to say and practices that are harder to actually implement. And that's what we're like kind of obsessively laser focused on, is how do we make what we know works more replicable in more places.
Here. I want to ask, this is a funny question, but so many teachers are out there. When you hire someone, Matthew, and I know you haven't been at Heinemann that long, but when you hire someone, okay, what do you look for, okay, in an employee, obviously someone with some experience or something? I'm just curious because I think people want to know that. We would talk about all these things we want to do. How do you find the right people to do that, if I may ask?
Oh, Larry, that's such a great question. So I think it starts with our culture and what is the thing that we are going after? What are we saying is the best version of us as an organization, as an institution, and making sure that we have a clear understanding of that. So, a couple of years ago, we went through this whole process of figuring out what our culture was going to be at HMH, and that included the team at Heinemann as well. And we landed on a couple key things, and this is the essential criteria for the folks that we hope to attract to our mission, right? We have a high purpose. We are unapologetically a double bottom line organization, right? We believe we have a high purpose of helping shift trajectories, shift lives because of the what we are bringing to education and how we're helping teachers do the work that they do. So our purpose is very high, and we need to match that purpose and reinforce that purpose with high performance. So we define ourselves as high purpose, high performance, and that performance and those things feed off each other, right? No sense in having a high purpose if you're not going to be like putting it on the line to go after it and deliver and execute with excellence regularly, so that you can ensure that you can have momentum in executing against your purpose. So high purpose, high performance, and that's what we look for. We look for people who are mission driven, who really, really have dedicated their lives or want to dedicate their lives to this kind of work, and then have a demonstrated record of high performance.
Then that's why you're going to have a great company with high performance, because you're looking for those people.
And let me say this, like to our earlier point, one of the areas we are keenly focused on is improving sort of the representation and diversity across our organization. And that goes to both sides. That's about the purpose. That's about making sure that we look more like who we are serving. And it's also meaningfully about performance, because guess what? Diverse teams build better solutions because they have greater intimacy and knowledge of the users, and they're able to respond to their needs more appropriately. So that's not just, obviously it's the right thing to do, but beyond the right thing to do, it's the winning thing to do.
You're here. That is a great answer. I got to tell you. Of all this, well, actually, let me ask you another question. This is important because it's so important to teachers out there. That every superintendent tells me that, quote, the number one priority at the school for learning, if I can say this the right way, is social emotional learning. They feel that if they get that right, then the kids will learn the academic subjects a lot easier with a lot less pressure. Let's just put it that way. I guess I have to ask, is Heinemann doing anything in SEL these days?
Yeah, we are. We're focused on students, and quite frankly, not just student, but teacher well-being is important.
Here. Thank you very much.
Goes
back to what we said. Yeah.
It does. These things are prerequisites for creating the conditions for optimal learning to happen, right? And optimal teaching and learning to happen. So, yes, I remember that survey that I referenced about how teachers are feeling about their profession. No surprise, right? Their well-being is not where we want it to be.
That's right.
And so that's an important sort of contributor. So, yeah, absolutely. Again, we pursue a way of doing this, not to say, here's SEL over here on the side, we're going to slap those acronyms on it. No, we integrate opportunities to help address well-being, help address issues like mindset into the curriculum, into the program, because we believe it's that important.
Yeah, it is that important. Okay, and I'm not surprised that you said all that, because it is just... This is a layer with a layer. This is an onion with many layers. Okay, and you start to peel it away, and you have to get that all together. Okay, and I have to tell you, this is one of my pet peeves about SEL, which I think is extremely important. We're asking teachers to teach it. Okay, the teachers are having their own problems, A, and B, nobody ever bothered to tell them how to teach it. Okay, there's not one college in the country that has a course on teaching SEL. Not one. Think about that. Yeah. Okay, it's just nuts. And yet that's the top priority of a superintendent. This is why companies like Heinemann, and I mean this sincerely, have to step up. And they have to provide the information and materials that helps teachers, helps school districts, helps superintendents. So, Matthew, it falls on your shoulders, guys like you, and luckily they're good shoulders.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. We do need to step up, both at Heinemann and across the board, and do our part. I will tell you that sometimes, our industry, our profession, gets a little bit obsessed with acronyms and labels on things. If we're being really honest, we know that what good quote unquote SEL looks like is what master teachers have been doing for generations.
Yeah,
and
I don't do that.
As simple as knowing your kids in the classroom and where they're at, what their mindset state is, and what they may need in a given moment, having an understanding of what their home environment is like and how you can help, partner with the family to make sure the students are getting exactly the kinds of things we need. That's the essence of so much of this work, and yet sometimes we get a little bit, I think, focused on the sort of flavor of the month and what we're calling the thing at the time, and some sort of these sort of core fundamental principles, I think, are still always apply.
And I will agree with you. I want every teacher to be a master teacher. Okay?
Yeah.
Like you said, but it's what a master teacher has been doing for years. Okay? But we have to pay attention to this stuff because it's really crazy out there, I got to tell you. All right? I want to do
right.
more.
You're totally right. You're totally right. And there's skills and there's development required to become sort of that master teacher. Again, that brings us right back to our mission and how we, what wakes us up in the morning and gets us fired up at Heinemann is because that's our aim.
Well, Heinemann's got a good wagon train leader and a good people driving those wagons these days. I got to tell you, Matthew, it's really just great. I want to do more with Heinemann. I always like the company, and I'm going to try to get some of your authors on, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to follow up with you and see what we can put together here. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, that would be fantastic. And we've got some exciting things coming out. Colleen Beers' new book is going to be coming out at the top of next year. Jen Sarvalo's Reading Strategies 2.0 is coming out. Fantastic research and work by Jen, sort of, seeking to give teachers a refined, more accurate understanding of the literacy and reading landscape that exists. There's a lot of noise in the media and stuff about reading, and Jen has done the hard work of doing, deep dive into all of the research to really substantiate the strategies, the toolkit, if you will, that teachers can use.
It's so darn important. I'll call you and we're going to get some stuff together here. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. And enjoy Boston. Okay, enjoy your baked beans.
Thank you.
Boston baked beans. It's been 12 million years since that was.
Hey, wait, don't forget. So I'm originally from Barbados, but I grew up Barbados and Philly, so I'm an Eagles fan. So football season's going pretty good.
You're reminding me. How about those? Wait a minute before you. How about those Eagles, huh?
How about those Eagles?
Yeah,
we're looking pretty good.
I forgot about that. Right.
Yeah.
Is this amazing or what? We're going to win it.
Oh,
we're going to win it this year.
Yeah. Don't jinx it.
I'm not jinxing it. I can't jinx it because we already lost one game. That was important. That takes away that pressure. Okay? And I'm telling you, onward to victory. I can feel it in my bones. That team is so good.
Victory.
Okay?
Absolutely.
I forgot about that. Right? This is great. Matthew, it's great to be back in touch. Really, man. I got to tell you.
Yeah. Great to talk to you.
Thank you. I'll be in touch soon. Okay? So you take care. Thanks, pal. Okay? Bye-bye. Right. Was that great, everybody? I forgot about the Philly connection. Okay. Matthew Mugo Fields. They couldn't find a better person. Okay. Is the new president of Heinemann Publishing, and that is a good company. Okay. I've worked with them for years. Okay. And I'll tell you that they got solid people working there and writing for them. All right. So check it at Heinemann.com. Okay, you'll be able to find it there. Just go Google just Heinemann Publishing. And Matthew's an interesting guy. He really is. All right, we're going to archive. I'm so glad he called in. We're going to archive the show over at ace-ed.org. All right, I'm Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio. See what we do over there at ace-ed.org. And thanks for listening.